Hi, dear guys. The hottest iPhone in history is now in my hand. Before discussing this, I want to mention a point to you. I'm Arshia, and this is also my channel. I would appreciate it if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel. Well, the iPhone 15 had a lot of controversies this year. At first, we thought the most important thing would be the USB-C port, but suddenly all the attention turned to the iPhone overheating, and the USB-C port, periscope camera, powerful chip, and playing AAA games all went to the sidelines. Let's also talk about battery life and stuff like that. First of all, let's close the USB-C port issue together. You know, the whole saga started with pressures from the European Union, and Apple finally had to switch the iPhone's port from the 10-year-old USB-C to USB-C. Many headaches about carrying cables and chargers will be reduced. With one charger, you can charge many modern devices like laptops, iPads, and power banks. Although Apple hasn't used the potential of USB-C for faster charging on the iPhone, thanks to the powerful A15 chip and the USB-C port, there's no sign of slow charging anymore, and apparently, you can transfer data at a speed of 10 gigabits per second with USB-C. Just remember that the nice and convenient cable is no longer included in the iPhone box, so you need to buy a high-speed cable yourself to reach the maximum data transfer speed. Another big change I want to talk about is the titanium frame. It's very strong and lightweight. That's why the new iPhones are 10% lighter than the previous ones. This style is felt more in the Pro Max model, but on the other hand, the frame edges also have a smoother contour, making the phone much more comfortable to hold. The titanium frame material and lighter weight give the phone a softer feel, but the chassis inside the phone remains aluminum, which is achieved through a more complex thermomechanical process. I mentioned in a short video before that this year, there is no news of gold and purple colors, and Apple has chosen 4 colors: black, blue, white, and titanium. Even in these models, the frame has a brushed and cool matte finish. Here we have the black titanium for the Pro version and titanium finish for the Pro Max. In my opinion, this year, unlike previous years, the titanium color stands out more than any other color, although it's subjective. It's noticeable that in darker colors, scratches and dents on the frame are much more visible, so you need to be more careful. A good thing is that the frame is matte, but it has both pros and cons because it easily collects fingerprints, as you might have experienced with previous iPhones. Moving on to physical changes, now I want to talk about the action button. It has replaced the mute switch, so that with this cool menu it provides, you can use this action button as a camera shutter or activate a specific feature or activity with Siri shortcuts. However, since the placement of this button, especially in this Pro Max model, which is not very ergonomic, it's unlikely to be used much after some time. Let me tell you about the tiny details, like the subtle chamfered edges on the display. This makes it much more comfortable to hold, but surely you've seen the stress test videos so far. This has become a weak point for screen breakage. I feel like with these chamfers, it might get a bit harder to hold. Still, it might not withstand drops as well as previous iPhones. Let's move on to the edges. These tiny, fine edges on the display edges are something new. This way, the corners fit much better in the hand. But surely you've seen the durability test videos. This has become a weak point for screen breakage. I feel like with these edges, it might get a bit harder to hold. Still, it might not withstand drops as well as previous iPhones. Let's move on to the edges. These tiny, fine edges on the display edges are something new. This way, the corners fit much better in the hand. However, you must know that when the next version comes out, because iPhones usually have a black border around the screen, this might become less noticeable. I don't think we should pay too much attention to these edges. Let's move on to the chips. Finally, this year, the chip suffix has also changed. There's no mention of Bionic anymore. The iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max have an A17 Pro chip inside, while regular iPhones still use chips from previous versions. The A17 Pro chip in these Pro versions is always in the spotlight, but I don't know what it's compared to. Perhaps we are heading towards A18 for the iPhone 16. Let's leave A17 Pro for now because it's the first nanometer chip in mobile phones, which promises improved performance and real-time processing. It gives you 10% faster CPU and 20% stronger GPU. The reality is that in everyday use, you might not notice these changes immediately. The iPhone 15 Pro, just like the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro, is fast and smooth. This difference is more apparent in long-term usage, and after a few years of software updates, it shows its true potential. The new chip also supports a hard accelerator for ray tracing, exactly what's needed for more realistic gaming experiences. Apple has also signed several exclusive contracts for some console games like Resident Evil Village and Assassin's Creed Mirage to be ported specifically for the iPhone 15 Pro. Unfortunately, there are only 1 or 2 months left until the release of these games, so when we were reviewing them, we couldn't test them. However, we will definitely do this in the future. I can tell you from other experts and YouTubers who have experienced the demos that most of them praise the iPhone's performance in these games. This shows that Apple has so much faith in the potential of the A17 Pro chip that it considers the iPhone 15 Pro to be the best gaming console in the world. Regarding the impact of the new chip on the camera section, let me talk about it, but before that, let's discuss an issue that many users have been concerned about. It's the same issue that has caused all these freezes you're seeing. The device, even Samsung used to make fun of it, and now Apple has fallen into the same trap. You see, any device can experience performance degradation with heavy usage, and it can overheat. Well, this is not a problem in itself, but it seems to be more severe for the iPhone 15 Pro. We experienced a 50% drop in performance when we tested it in a normal temperature environment and without a cooler. The phone's temperature reached almost 45 degrees Celsius. In summary, the 5-nanometer fabrication process is not yet optimized, and since Apple has not made any significant changes to the architecture, it has decided to increase the frequency for improving performance on the A17 Pro compared to the A16. So what's the result? Power consumption also increases, meaning it drains the battery faster. However, the issue is not limited to heavy usage. Even in regular Apple apps, users have recently encountered issues due to a bug in iOS 17 and incompatibility with some apps like Instagram and Uber. Apple has issued a statement acknowledging the problem and promising to fix it in the next update. But you know what the story is, right? We didn't have Instagram or Uber on these phones, so the problems are probably elsewhere. The iPhone 15 Pro Max could play video for 25 hours, which is 6 hours less than the previous generation, even though the battery capacity has increased slightly. Finally, let's talk briefly about the camera. This is actually the most advanced part of the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. The only camera that has changed is the telephoto camera on the Pro Max, while the sensors and lenses of the other cameras are the same as the previous generation. The iPhone Punch Pro Max is the first Apple phone with a periscope telephoto camera. It uses a sensor shift system like the main camera of the iPhone 12. With a lens that combines 4 prisms for zoom and 5 times optical zoom, it gives you optical zoom without losing quality, while the telephoto camera of the iPhone Punch Pro can zoom up to 3 times. Apple leverages the power of the A17 Pro chip to improve image quality in ideal lighting conditions. The phone captures a large 48-megapixel frame and a smaller 12-megapixel frame, combining them to produce a final 24-megapixel image. The result is sharper images with more details, especially with transparent and HDR subjects. The 24-megapixel photos take up 50% more space than the 12-megapixel ones, but the extra details they provide are worth it, allowing you to crop images without losing quality, especially when using lenses of 24, 28, or 35 millimeters. However, the difference between these photos is not very noticeable unless you zoom in closely. The colors produced by the iPhone Punch Pro are realistic and slightly warm, as expected. There is some noise in the photos to maintain HDR details and balance artificial light sources that create halos around the camera lenses in low light conditions. Another new feature added is that the phone automatically saves information and images of people or pets. In the Photos app, you can choose whether to have portrait mode or not. It's really useful for someone who doesn't want to miss a moment. For more details about the camera and features, check the website for sure. And if you want to know what the iPhone 12 Pro Max does differently from other flagship phones, I promise we'll have a video for you. I think it can be a helpful video, so be sure to subscribe to not miss it. Now, let me ask, who should deal with the iPhone 13 Pro? Assuming they're ideal for the iPhone, new iPhones can enhance the experience for iPhone 12 Pro or older models without any problem. But like friends who have the 13 Pro or 14 Pro, it doesn't make a significant difference unless, I don't know, maybe the USB-C is a big deal for them.